Good day, and welcome to A Place Called Through. I'm your host, Patricia Wade Goings, and we're broadcasting live from WYTV7 Christian Broadcasters Network. We are a nonprofit network where we share stories of mission of hope. That mission of hope is to empower, encourage, and to inspire people as we do so globally. The only way that we can continue doing this is through your charitable donations. We thank you in advance for those donations, but we ask that you continue to give so that we can continue to give back, to inspire, encourage, and to empower others globally. Today we have as our guest Mr. Bryan Hurdle, who's going to talk about mannequins versus models. Let's not get this story twisted. Welcome to A Place Called Through, Mr. Hurdle.
Well, thank you. God bless you, and I appreciate. It is an honor. You can't make my story up. It is definitely from the Creator. So I thank you, Pastor Goings, and to the whole WYTV Channel 7 staff. And it is a great honor. Let's get into it.
We do welcome you, and again, we thank you for taking this time out. When we talked to you earlier, we talked about your family and in early ages of life. You've had a unique life thus far, and we hope that by the end of this, we can get into a little bit of where you are. But we want to go back way back into your early childhood. What was life like as a child for you growing up?
Life as a child for me, growing up was kind of forced more to dwell and not develop. And I have two older sisters. I'm the youngest of three, so I'm also a boy. And ch- childhood for me was challenging. In a house full of women, I'm the only male, and then I'm the youngest child. And and I had a mother. My mother is just she was great. She had to work most of the time. She worked full time. So I was pretty much raised by my TV and my older sister. You can say in what I call the rap era in the 80s.
So you grew up with a household full of women. That must have been really unique. So therefore, you learned a lot of housekeeping things to do. I'm sure by your siblings.
I can iron you a shirt and it won't move.
That is so unique. So we know that your mother she was there, but unfortunately she pretty much was forced out into the work world. So she was working most of the time to support you and your siblings.
That is correct. That is correct. Full time job, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and I was so blessed that my now. Granted, my story is relative to other maybe African American men in this country, but where it differs or where you can find the difference is that now my mother wasn't she wasn't a streetwalker. She wasn't out on drugs. She we wasn't abandoned. It was a back against the wall situation for her as well, as we were, and we were those type of children that when mama said something, you did it. So if when she said don't open the door, don't open the door. So we were blessed to have that I had my older sister. She was about 12 or 13 then, and so we knew what to do. So she was forced into the workforce, and we pretty much was there, by ourselves.
Well, she had to do what she had to do to
That's right.
provide for you.
That's right.
Your dad, where was he during this time?
My dad was gone by 82 or 83. They were divorced. So I'm about two, I think maybe three, agreed to turn right at 3 years old. So you can imagine. So my life was launched in a single parent home. I didn't the male presence. It was not there, not in the home for me. Yeah, I had uncles and things of that nature, but they were older already, once I arrived here, once I was born. So not really a strong male influence in my life until my mother was remarried in '88 to my stepfather. So you got
And
about a
so,
5 to 6 year time span where it was just me and the girls.
hmm. So during that time, was there any kind of form of communication with you and your dad? Because you didn't know that there really weren't any positive male figures during, so many years of your life. So what was that relationship? Was it just totally distance, or was it something maybe occasionally you may have had conversation with your dad?
Absolutely void. Absolutely void. No communications at all. No, I actually didn't have a real, face-to-face conversation with my father until I was 9 years old. So I'm about 89. So we're looking at a 6 year gap. And actually, he was in town. My father is in. He left here to go to the D.C. area, and he came back in town. And my mother had to take me around there to him. He didn't come around to see me and his children. My mother had to take me to go see him, and that's when I first met him. That was our first words to each other. Now he knew me when I was a baby, of course, but no correspondence. So it was about a 6 year time span before I ever laid eyes on my father, my
And
biological father.
what kind of conversation did you have with him when you first met him?
Well, the conversation was pretty much where how you doing. He was reluctant a bit. I was more excited, than anything to finally be around some male, just after being around the women around my mom and the sisters. I was more excited. I don't think I had a real expectation. I think now that I'm older, it should have been a thing of, well, hey, a little more from him and his side,
Hmm.
his side of the story, or maybe maybe I was too young, even maybe for that, being 9, maybe I wasn't ready for that. So I was more excited. His conversation was a little more, it just kind of surfaced, nothing deep. Nothing
Hmm.
deep at all, actually. Nothing about him or where he lived, or my mother's side of the family had to tell me that. So it was more surface than deep. So, yep.
So he didn't have any relationship either with any of your siblings. He was not receptive to them as well.
Not at all. Still doesn't. Still doesn't. All of us in our 40s, and we still don't. We still
Amazing.
don't. We still do not have a real relationship with our father.
Wow. That is so amazing that he just totally just ignored you even in his presence. And so I'm sure this was overwhelming for your mom.
I would know. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was to give her the like you would say, I guess, the benefit of the doubt. I'm quite sure it was to have to, like I say, forced to raise 3 children. I'm talking about. I mean, like I said, the oldest was 11 or 12. To raise 3 children on her own, I'm sure it was overwhelming. Verbally, I never heard that from her, or how overwhelming it was, or uh, you know what kind of pressure that she faced. We to this day have never had that conversation.
And so, this is the month that we're celebrating women.
Hmm.
And, your mom just, she sounds like she's a phenomenal person.
Hmm.
Can you share with us what your mom's first name is?
My mother's first name is Joy, Joy.
Well, we want to
Um,
definitely give a shout out to Miss Joy for being that phenomenal woman. We pray God's blessings continue upon her, for she
yes,
has done the work of the Lord. She has truly done great works, and we're seeing that evident in you today through your story. And we just want to say, Miss Joy, continue being that mom. God bless you, Miss Joy.
and she just
This is
she
the
just
month.
retired. She just retired from the city. 33 years, I believe. Back last year, I believe. So yep, she has done the same job. She has done a phenomenal job. So thank you for that. Yep.
That's why I said she's a phenomenal woman, and who knew that she just retired. And that's why I said she's continued in doing great works.
Hmm.
And she has, and still, even though she may not be working a 9 to 5 job, we're sure that she is somewhere doing something else, and that she's keeping her hand to the plows. And again, Miss Joy, shout out to you for who you are, the woman of our month. God bless her well. But we want to get back into your story now, because you're maturing here and you're growing up a little bit now, and you've met this person who's supposedly to be your dad. Without a doubt, he is dad, honestly. But
Yeah.
he has no kind of communication. He made it evident that he wants no relationship with you. And so,
Mhm.
when you go to school, kids are always laughing and talking and chitter chatting. Those father and son activities come up. How were you able to handle, that father and son, relationship, and maybe Father's Day? How would those gatherings help to you?
Uh, Well, not. I think for him, let me say this. For him, I think it was a thing of an assumption. Now, I know we only got a few, so much to to talk about it. I think from his end, because later on, as a grown man, we had that man to man, conversation, and I heard his side. So I think his lack of relationship was more from an assumption of what he thought would happen from my mother's side.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's more of an assumption, which is dangerous. I think so. That's that. So to answer that question, I think it was more of an assumption. Not to point any all fingers at him or my mother or
Mhm.
anyone. I think it was a lot more of assumptions, and even society today, I think assumptions drive a lot of actions from just people, just period. But as far as growing up with, with guys, some of the boys that had dads and their fathers would come out to the cafeteria to eat with them every now and then. I never really gave it a real second thought. I always wanted more of a brother than thought from a father-son standpoint.
Mhm.
Okay, so because I guess in the house with two sisters, there was no one there for me to relate with. Now them girls was rough. We played rough, but they wasn't that brother per se that I had expected in my mind. So
Image.
right in my image. So as far as those father son events, of course I didn't attend, so it didn't affect me in that manner in that point in time in my life. Now, with like I said, going back to those things about that, it just didn't affect me in that way. I wanted more so of a brother more than anything. And but the kids would tease or they would ask, well, where is your father? And that could be a difficult position for a second, third, fourth grader with no answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, there's a large percentage of children, that in the United States, those numbers grow higher and higher every day on
Absolutely.
bullying and being teased.
Mhm.
And there is a difference, for our listeners and our viewers on bullying and teasing. Back in the day, it was more or less just the teasing factor that
Right.
we would say.
That's right.
We
Yep.
never
Yep.
said, I'm being bullied,
Bully.
oh,
Right.
the kids teased me, and understanding teasing, sometimes teasing could be just a joke, it could be humorous, and
Mhm.
it could be harsh as well. It's
Oh yeah.
just depending on how it's received and by whom it's being, given to. Whereas bullying is more forceful because it's more intentional, to do more of the harm, because it's more of, I'm the popular person and I
So
can do this. It's showtime really for that person.
that's
But
it.
we're going to take a quick 10-minute break, and then we're going to come back and talk to you, continue, Mr. Hurdle, with your story. Mannequins and models. Don't get it twisted. Stay tuned. We'll be right back at a place called Through. I'm the host, Patricia Wade Goings, and we're talking to Mr. Bryan Hurdle. Mannequins versus models. Don't get it twisted. We'll be right back after this 10-minute break. Stay tuned.
Mr. Happy Living here. I love good things made by good people. That's why I love Dry Farm Wines. I first met the man known as the healthiest wino on earth back in 2016. He claimed Dry Farm Wines don't cause headaches or hangovers, and that he started his company because 99% of wine consumed in the US is highly processed and loaded with nasties. Like most processed food, it's toxic. That very night, I made a big health decision. Toxic wines out, natural wines in. It's been nearly 5 years since I made the switch, and I feel great. Go to happyliving.com, select Partners in Happy, and get your first bottle of natural wine for 1 penny. And I'll donate 8% of every order placed for the entire month of March to WYTV7. So share the gift of natural wine with a friend. It'll make you both happy.
We welcome you back to a place called Through, broadcasting from WYTV7 Christian Broadcasters Network. I am your host, Patricia Wade Goings of A Place Called Through, and we're welcome back today, Mr. Bryan Hurdle, who's talking to us about those mannequins versus models. Let's not get this twisted. So we want to keep on moving on into, we were talking about, facts about being bullied, and the difference in being teasing. And so I went ahead and I kind of looked up some information just so that our viewers and our listeners would be clear. There is a difference in being bullied and being teased. And teasing really is playing tricks on someone. And as small kids in school, and even as adults, we like to play those little games. Every now and then we do that. Teasing is to influence. It's also just a popularity, but noted that it could lead into bullying. So bullying does stem from being teased, whereas verbal bullying is, trying to embarrass somebody, to be, looked upon as yourself as this big image. I'm the big one. I've got this. I can do this because I can make things happen. But then there were some statistics that I also found out too, where it said that verbal bullying, as I stated, is saying or writing mean things about somebody. And in school, kids and your teacher, this, they do these things. But then there's social bullying. And sometimes that's referred to as a relational bullying, which involves hurting someone's reputation or their relationship with someone. Because sometimes kids don't want you to socialize with this one. They want you to be in their little clique. And when you say no, that's where the social bullying. But there's also physical bullying, which involves, of course, hurting that person's body or even though their possessions. Bullying, we know, is very serious. It's an educational issue. It's also now a matter of public health and safety. We found out a lot about bullying as we kept reading on. It just affects so many children, and being a teacher, that. So, from your experience, and now, you've been raised in a house with three lovely females. And so you went to school. And so a part about this being teased and from self-experience. It's not, from the paper, what the paper says. You've had that experience. So talk to us a little bit about that being that transitional time for you of, going through school and now moving on in life.
Wow. Yeah, that's deep. And I can tell you that it does cut deep and it sticks with you. If I can be, definitely open up as we get deeper into this and be more candid about it. I still have some of those jokes in my head, and some of the things that I've heard, I have heard, and some things that have been, spoken over me by friends, and I can tell you by family members as well too. So those things do not go away. They do leave you scarred, and so you take a young African American boy, and then you put him out, into this environment with no guidance, with no instructions, no plans. I mean, you can be white, black, green, yellow, but with any of that out there, and you're placed into a school where it's no holds barred, and you're kind of left to fend for yourself. And it was not easy. It was not easy. I'm a words person, so I was more wordy, more than physical. Had a lot of fights in school. Didn't win many, but one you win, like I say, you win some, you lose some. So I had to learn how to fight verbally and physically. And you hit a key point when you said social, the social thing about bullying, social bullying, because I have always, and even to this day, has been stuck in this cycle of, well, don't like him because I don't like him.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I think that outside of the physical and the verbal cut me deep.
And then, talking about, you going through this bullying. At one point in school, I know that you said your family, you were all athletic people.
Yeah.
And so
We were.
you were, for our listeners and viewers, your pastime became, you
My
were a,
pastime became wrestling and football.
Mhm.
And I had my two older sisters were track stars. To me, they were stars. I had one, the middle sister, the middle child. She played three sports. And I had an aunt that was an actual track star as well, ran hurdles too. So I mean, we it was in the blood. We were athletes. We were athletic people, and that was that was pretty much my pastime was sports and TV. And I tell you honestly, sports was a thing for me because I had gotten into a thing where I needed to prove myself. Now I'm gonna tell you, and as far as and I believe, and definitely in my community, and I'm sure abroad in this nation, what we're looking at is most African American men have it. They live with something to prove because they haven't been approved. And I lived my life in a place where I wasn't approved. So I got into sports to try to prove that. I got into sports to try to, be in the in crowd with, even with my sisters, with them being, with them being athletes, as well. So I always wanted to I had that need to fit in and feel that, which was the void of missing instructions of a missing father.
But you've also had a weight issue, and that pretty much led you into getting into the wrestling mode.
That's it. That's it. So yeah, so in fifth grade, so now in fifth grade, I think I was 200 pounds. In the fifth grade, I weighed 198. In the eighth grade, I was 298. And by the time I left high school, I was 410 pounds. And so you can see kind of the weight and then it all
Mhm.
just kind of came on about 9 or 10. I was a small kid till about 9 or 10, a small child about 9 or 10, and then something happened, and I don't know if hormone shift or whatever it may have been, and so and then it all changed. One day I woke up 10, 11, 12 years old, and I was bigger than everybody in my class. So that kind of pushed me also into sports also.
Amazing. Okay, so we want to kind of get ready before we get too far down to wrap up time is to talk about now you've gone through, being raised by three females, you've gone to school, you didn't graduate, but you did finish strong because now you are in the educational system teaching other children. And
Mhm.
that's, we're thankful for you, stepping up to that plate to do that in spite of what you've gone through. We talked yesterday, I believe, about you've gotten married, you've moved on now in life. So talk to us now how it became to you to move into this transition of becoming a teacher, and what is the impact that you hope to make through your story and what you're doing to help children today.
Well, the impact I definitely hope to make is to let the children know that every decision they make is vital. That while you will make some mistakes in your past, that your past is not a mistake. You have to understand that every decision you make will build your future, and whatever was whatever was spoken negative over you, whatever is going on in your home life, I can definitely relate. I'm that person to relate to, but I can promise you that whatever the enemy meant for bad, God will turn it around. For good. So how I do that is, one is by how I carry myself, how I speak to them, how I talk to them. Uh, the best testimony is the one that people see, not so much that people hear. Over in John 1, I like where John the Baptist and Peter and the two, he was one of the two disciples, and they saw Jesus walking, and he said, "Behold, that's the Lamb." Where Jesus was walking, that was Jesus hadn't even opened his mouth. So I think the best testimony is the one people see. The best Bible is the one people see, and it's evidence. One of the great apostles just transitioned was Fred K.C. Price, and he was the first black man I saw on TV in the '80s that wasn't cussing, and he had on a suit, and his song was evidence. And I think people more today, they need evidence on what a stable, particularly African American man, what does that look like? Because again, you can't get mannequins confused with models.
Absolutely. And noteworthy too that you mentioned about, Frederick Price's music. One thing that I noted that you had said before too is well that you really just went to church like on Sundays. It was just, it wasn't a traditional thing, but you did go to church on Sundays. And so that made great impact, I'm sure, on to what you are. We're kind of running out of time, but I want to get some more information out to our listeners and our viewers.
Sure.
One of the scriptures that you said was kind of like your favorite scriptures coming from Matthew 16, 13, and 9. Who do people say that I am? So,
Mhm.
in leaving your legacy now and moving on and helping to inspire and educate and empower the children whose hands come through you, what would you say to them that who you are?
Who I am first is the son of the living king. That's one. That's who I am first. So often people would tie up who they are in their occupation, And that's you can get into some serious that's flawed, I think, once you tie yourself up in your occupation, because once you retire, and statistics will tell you that most people begin to die once they retire. So what I want people to know is, first, that I'm a child of the King. Second, by what I have done for the kingdom and what impact and influence have I made, into their lives. One of the things I like to ask myself is, what am I leaving behind, and who am I leaving it to, and do they know how to do it, and how have I added equity or value, is that word for equity, to my community. And so, who will men say that I am? And I know that's what Jesus was asking Peter and his boys. Who do you say that I am? Because culture mostly today, we're living in a society where people do not know who they are, let alone whose they are. And Jesus was asking them boys, well, who do men say that I am? Because he knew what he left behind was more important than what he was doing. And I think that's what I want my legacy to be, is that they, hey, he was a child of the King. He lived for God, and he left something for the next generation to build upon, evidence.
And then that's it. Just, living that testimony alone will help inspire someone else. We're just about out of time, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here, about 2 minutes, to share with us, some works that you have, your books that you've written, any publications. If you would like, for 2 minutes, just tell the people how they can reach out to you. If someone wants to reach out to you, if you would give them a website, email, phone numbers,
Yes.
your published books. 2 minutes.
All right. So once again, I just thank you for this honor. If you want to now, I did write my first book. It is called The Step Tracker. It is out on Amazon right now. That's that book. That's my first book. My second one is due out this fall. So I am a published author. Also, I write for a local Christian magazine entitled Kingdom Life. I am in the most recent two editions for those. So I write for a local Christian magazine, and I also am a published author. If you need to reach out to me for any links, or you can just type it in the chat bar on Amazon, it'll come up, the Step Tracker. You can reach me at jhurd2380@gmail.com. Once again, that's jhurd2380@gmail.com for any booking informations, any evangelism, any speaking engagements. You can reach me at that email, and I will send you the link out to my book and any resources that you may need to reach out to.
Mr. Hurdle, we thank you so very much for being our guest today. We truly have enjoyed your story. God bless you. Godspeed to you. And again, to your mom, Joy, we got to give a shout back out to her for all the things that God has allowed her to do and continue to do.
Yeah.
And again, I am your host, Patricia Wade Goings. I am also the author of Willpower, The Call to Rise Above. That book is available to you at Barnes and Noble and also on Amazon. Again, we're broadcasting live today from WYTV7 Christian Broadcasters Network, on a mission of hope that we inspire and encourage and empower others. And we do so by those charitable donations. So won't you consider giving today to help us continue with our mission of hope? Again, you've heard from Mr. Bryan Hurdle, Mannequins versus Models. Let's not get it twisted. Again, we thank you for being our guest today. Again, God bless you.